Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we've got a great episode with Kevin Passmore, who was able to harvest a great bull elk with his bow on the late elk season in Arizona. And Kevin has been on the podcast before, and I know you guys are going to get some good information from Kevin, and it's always great talking with him. I wanted to go over a couple things before we get to that episode. First, the December Go Hunt Insider giveaway is 5 Zeiss binoculars. They are giving away 5 pairs of Zeiss Conquest 10x42 binoculars with a total value of $4,500. All you have to do is be an insider member to be eligible to win. And last month they gave away Kuiu backpacks. They've given away Kuiu sleeping bags. They've given away Doll sheep hunts. They did a Coues deer hunt with Dar Colburn and I coming up here in January. And if you're not already an insider member, go to gohunt.com, click on the blue Join Now button. When you click on that blue Join Now button, use the J. Scott promo code when you're signing up, and gohunt.com will send you a $50 Kuiu gift card. And GoHunt.com Insider just launched their Filtering 2.0, which shows all the harvest statistics from all the western states and all the animals that we like to hunt. Coming very soon is going to be the draw odds for all the western states, and it's going to be the most sophisticated draw odds filtering system that the hunting industry's ever seen. So go check them out at gohunt.com /insider. Don't forget to use the J. Scott promo code when signing up. I want to thank gohunt.com for their sponsorship of this podcast. And we are looking forward to going hunting in January with the gohunt.com winners. We've got some rutting Coues deer here coming up mid-January down in Sonora, Mexico. And sorry I've been a little late on these podcast episodes. Just got off an incredible desert bighorn sheep hunt in Unit 22 with my client Craig Dunlap. He was able to harvest an awesome Class 4 ram. Just what he wanted, a beat up, kind of chipped up, broomed, beautiful ram. He's got 10-inch third quarters. Just an awesome ram. You can go on my Instagram account at jscottoutdoors. Also on my blog, jscottoutdoors.com, and my YouTube channel to see a bunch of videos from that hunt. And we're going to be doing a podcast episode on that hunt coming up here in the future. Also, my associate Dar Colburn with the other half of Colburn and Scott Outfitters. We had an incredible hunt with his son Parker on the Strip, and just prior to that he took his youngest son Paul and he killed a giant 121-inch Coues deer on his first hunt as a 10-year-old. And Dar just guided Arizona Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep hunter in Unit 6A to a archery. He was an archer and he shot a 181-inch ram with his bow, and it's just a phenomenal hunt. You can go on Dar Colburn, so it's at Dar, D-A-R-R Colburn on Instagram, and see the photos and the videos of that hunt. I want to thank you guys, the listeners. We are very, very close now to eclipsing the $1 million. I wish it was $1 million. Eclipsing the million. Million downloads here on the podcast. And it's not $1 million yet, but it is 1 million downloads. And without you guys, none of that would be possible. I want to encourage you to continue to email me questions and comments about the podcast, or questions you have about your upcoming hunts, or people that you want to hear on the podcast. You can reach me on my email at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. I always love hearing from you guys. Every day I get an email or a Facebook message or Instagram message from one of the listeners, and I just really appreciate it. Keep sending me photos of your successful hunts. I love seeing those photos, and Guys, I want to thank DeadeyeOutfitters.com for their sponsorship of this podcast, and I want to thank GoHunt.com/insider for their sponsorship of this podcast. And let's get right to the episode here with Kevin Passmore. Guys, I want to tell you about one of the sponsors of this podcast. DeadeyeOutfitters.com is a lifestyle hunting apparel company for hunters, by hunters. Check out episode 45 of this podcast with one of the owners and you'll see what I mean. Deadeye Outfitters makes quality t-shirts, sweatshirts, and hats designed with hunters in mind. Deadeye Outfitters has the only license for creating Boone & Crockett apparel. Use the J. Scott promo code and receive a 10% discount on all purchases at DeadeyeOutfitters.com. Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have Kevin Passmore, who has been on the show before, and the last time we talked with Kevin, it was kind of pre-elk season, and we were getting some hints on late elk hunts and late archery elk hunts and some tips, and Kevin had a great hunt with his buddy and was able to harvest a couple nice bulls, so I'm anxious to talk to Kevin. Kevin, how you doing?
Doing good, Jay.
Man, you did good. You had your own archery tag, late archery tag when they're not bugling, and you guys, you and a buddy were able to harvest a couple really nice bulls. I really like the mass on the bull that you harvested.
Yeah, we had a heck of a time. My buddy killed his largest bull ever, even with a rifle, and I did the same, both doing it with bows, so it was pretty special.
That's awesome. Your bull looks like he's got a broken, maybe a little broken third on his right side, but just heavy all the way around. Even the points are heavy, like even where you don't get credit for score, it's just a solid, heavy bull.
You know what? That third is actually, it's kind of different. I posted a picture on Instagram, but it almost looks like he jabbed a stick or something when that point was growing, and it was still soft, and it grew around it, and there's actually a pocket of velvet and something hard inside the pocket where that horn grew around it. You can actually stick your finger through it. It's kind of interesting.
I'm actually looking at it closer now. Kevin's handle on Instagram is Kipper2012 if you want to see the pictures of the bulls that he's talking about. In particular, I'm looking at this third point. It's almost like a little crab claw pincher.
Yep.
That's pretty dang cool to see that. I don't know that I've ever seen that exactly like that. That's pretty dang cool.
Yeah, I've never seen it. We were sitting there looking at it. My dad was poking around in it with his knife and looking at the velvet, and it almost seems like there might be a stick or, I don't want to tear it apart because it's so cool, but I really would like to know what's in there.
Yeah, for sure. Kevin, before we get into your hunt, last time we talked, you were going to be doing some guiding on some elk hunts. Tell me how that went this year. How was your season so far, and general breakdown of the season?
It was good. It was difficult at times. I started out September in Unit 1 with Mike and Devin Hancock. I had a hunter from Colorado, and he hunted for 8 days and got on some awesome bulls and had an awesome time. We never got to seal the deal on anything, but it was an awesome time. Unit 1 at that time of the year is something else. I really do enjoy spending time down there. And
how was your bugling there in Unit 1?
You know what? It was pretty good. The first 4 or 5 days where we were hunting wasn't too crazy, and then towards the end of the hunt before he left, there was a storm coming in, and we kind of moved a little higher and kind of got into it a little bit. Got into some bigger groups of elk that were really rutting around, and bulls were chasing each other. In the mornings were kind of, before that, they were slow. You'd hear bulls bugling and going after it, but once that sun peeked over it, they would push their cows off and get pretty quiet. But for the most part, it was awesome. I wish we could have had a couple more days in there, because I think we could have got something good, but it was a good time.
I believe they have 350 tags on that archery hunt. You can correct me if I'm wrong. How does the pressure affect the hunting, and what was your experience there hunting with that many people?
My experience was good. We might have bumped into some people here or there, see a truck parked that might have beat us down the road, or have someone come in on top of us. But for the most part, once our boots were on the ground and we were on elk, we never had any issues. I was dreading it with the 300 tag. I'm pretty sure it's 300, but
okay, 300.
I was dreading it. I think actually one day we had a guy slip in with bad wind and blow some elk out. But other than that, it was awesome. It was what you would want, after waiting 15, 16 years on a hunt.
How do those bulls differ from, you're from central Arizona, and as far as the characteristics of their antlers or color or what have you, what do you notice about those Unit 1 bulls maybe that would be different than what you see in central Arizona?
Color for sure. They, they got those dark horns and the white tips, but this year, the amount of bulls that I was seeing with splits and extras was unreal. I'd never been on an early hunt where that many bulls with that many extras. So it was pretty cool to see that, a couple bulls with extra eye guards and kickers, and then mainly splits. A lot of bulls with splits.
It'll be interesting. I've been watching the news quite a bit lately, and they're predicting, a strong El Nino, and they're predicting, pretty strong end of second part of January, February, March, April moisture, and it will be interesting to see if we can back last year's, mild winter, but great spring moisture and summer moisture. If we can kind of back that up with some good winter moisture, we could have a really good elk year next year if things line up correctly.
Yeah, I agree. And there's we saw a lot of bulls, got a lot of pictures of a lot of bulls this year, and I always watch social media and watch real hard different forums and stuff, trying to see if any familiar faces pop up. And I don't see them all, but so far I haven't seen a whole lot out of some of the units that I got to hunt. So it's kind of it's interesting to think of what, if it is a good year, what might grow into next year.
Yeah, for sure. And so that was the early archery season. And then what other hunts did you guide, and how did you do?
From there, we switched gears and came back up north to Unit 10. A buddy of mine, him and one of his close friends drew early rifle tags. And that one was a different story. There was 100 tags on that hunt. And we did hunt on ES and off of it. And it was tough. We got on some groups of elk that you'd see people from all around you moving in, and we had issues with people coming downwind, walking right through, bugling elk. It was frustrating. We ended up kind of pulling the plug early, and he killed a bull. He'd never had an elk tag. I think he even drew it with like 2 points, but he ended up killing about a 345 bull, and then I ended up leaving, and his buddy came back and killed another bull real similar. But it was tough. 100 tags on that hunt. I'm sure you could have got away from people, but where we were hunting and trying to get on some of these big bulls, it was a circus.
Yeah, back when we used to hunt Unit 10 a lot, I want to say there was 25 early rifle tags. And one of the common themes you'll hear listeners hear on this podcast, I sound like I'm complaining, but it's like when you're used to hunting a unit that, has 25 early rifle tags and, only 100, I believe there was times when there's only 100 archery tags in there, to see the number of tags, the 200 archery tags and the 100 early rifle, it's just a totally different experience. And the public a lot of times has spoken, and they've asked for more opportunity. And, I go back to playing the devil's advocate of, do you really want more opportunity, or do you want more good opportunity? Because, in my case, not necessarily more opportunity is better. I would rather have better good opportunities than just mediocre tags in my pocket. I think the quality in Unit 10, granted there still will be a couple of big bulls just because of the size of the country and that it borders, the Wallapai and some of the different, areas of sanctuary. There's always going to be a big bull or two, but I mean, it seems like the general consensus across the board is that the quality in Unit 10 has slipped a lot. I mean, the last time I hunted it hard was 2005, 10 years ago, and it was a phenomenal moisture year, and there was a lot of really big bulls killed. And then it seems like ever since then, the tag increase, it's just not what it used to be. And it's hard to, I'm so spoiled. It's hard for me to go hunt an area where, the quality was so high for so many years when I was hunting it to see it where it is now. And I'm just going off of what, a bunch of people that I've talked to said. Can you speak a little bit on that, on your experience in Unit 10?
Yeah, it was, this year they killed, in the early archery hunt and even on the early rifle, they killed some tremendous bulls, some friends, and some guys guiding. And then on the other side, I had some friends that, that late muzzleloader hunt, they added 125 tags, and in the late rifle hunt there's 550 or something like that, and they struggled. They, even on the early rifle hunt, they struggled in trying to find bulls, that guys that have waited for a long time to hunt the famous Unit 10, and then they get there and they're literally competing with way too many people. And as far as I know, they killed a couple good people at late muzzleloader hunt, but it was tough, my buddy said. But what I guess what's good is reading the proposals, they've knocked a lot of tags off. I want to say the early archery, the late muzzleloader, even the early rifle, I think they took 60 off of it, so it's down to 40, and the late rifle is down as well. So maybe it's headed in the right direction.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I actually haven't seen the new proposals. I need to get online and maybe I can go over that a little bit on one of these podcasts so people will know. So it sounds like the new proposals must be listed on the Game and Fish website.
Yeah, and I've caught a rumor that some of it, there's some typos on it. I don't know for sure, but it, like that early muzzleloader hunt in Unit 9, I don't think they're planning on having it. So there's some good stuff in there and some stuff that will kind of raise your eyebrows. So
I'm sure I tend to raise my eyebrows quite a bit these days. So you guided in Unit 10 and had a good hunt there. You guys got a 340 bull or something?
Yeah, we had a couple bigger bulls that we were hunting, of course, but when I come down to the wire, my wife was there filming, and my buddy saw the bull. He ended up shooting. It was love at first sight, basically. He knew he wanted him, and it was kind of cool. We ended up belly crawling, like Unit 10 across a big open flat, and it worked out in our favor, and he was tickled. But yeah, from there was just preparing for my late archery hunt after that.
So tell me about your late archery hunt. It's last time I talked to you, you were trying to figure out where some of those bulls were and keep your eye on some of those bulls. From a preparation standpoint on those late archery elk hunts, what are some of the things that you think are important for people that have those same tags to focus in on?
Backup plan. We we got up there and had looked around. We didn't do a ton of homework because we both had planned to take the whole hunt off and do whatever it took to. And we had our goals. And I'm not gonna lie, I was really looking for the next notch up from like a 350 bull and an unbroken bull. I knew the unit has that caliber of bull, and my buddy was just looking to shoot a big bull. So we had our goals, and the first trip we made up there, of course, we see a giant. They were still rutting, but from there we just started cutting country, on a map, finding glassing spots where we could overlook a lot of country, spots where we might be able to get away from people if we had any issues, familiarizing ourselves with the roads, and finding which roads we would need quads or pickups, or just the little things that would save a morning, instead of picking a road to go look at a different canyon from a different view and finding out, well, you need a quad to get in there. The little things to where once the hunt started, we had it all out on our map and everything rolled out without a glitch. We were into bulls all the time. We saw a bunch of bulls. This was the first hunt after the early rifle that they had in there for bulls. So it was.
So what were the hunt dates?
The hunt started on November 13th, I think, to the 27th or the 26th.
Okay.
So it was the middle of November. The bulls I was there on the late rifle, and the bulls that we'd been watching were still there in the same spot that they were going to be on that late rifle hunt. So they were as close as they were going to be to their, the winter grounds for hunting season, that is. And we didn't get up super early and, hike far and get up on the biggest knobs ever, but we played it real strategic and just glassed a lot and covered a lot of country trying to find a good bull in a good spot. And we saw some bulls that we probably should have went after. My buddy there was a couple bulls he really wanted to go after, but then you have to look at it from, you got a bow in your hand in 13 days. Do you want to spend a whole day trying to get on him, and it might not work, and blow him out of the country when he might move into some more huntable country? So that's how we kind of looked at it. And my buddy actually killed his bull opening morning. And when we first glassed him up, we had some other hunters pull up on us and kind of discouraged us, but we just sat there and watched him all morning. He stood in the wide open. And he's a heck of a bull. He's got 54-inch main beams, and he was 45 inches wide. So him standing up there is unbroken. Him standing up there on the bluffs, with the sun on him, he looked like a giant. Which, I mean, he was 340, 345, which he is a big bull, but just that appearance with those beams and that width. And we kind of got bummed out thinking that all these other people driving in are gonna go after him and whatnot. But once he bedded, we just formed a plan and had some spotters sitting back with some radios, a new type of radio we're actually using. We borrowed some of those CP200s I think you had told me about.
Yeah, that's what Dara and I used. Did you get some of those?
Yeah, we ended up having a buddy that had some, so we borrowed them and bought some different earpieces and had a heck of a time with them. They were awesome. They did everything we wanted. They were crystal clear. The battery life lasted long, and the earpieces were real simple. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, my buddy Cody Goff, he sells those CP200s. He sells a bunch of radios, but those CP200s are the quality of sound, and you get such good reception. They're pretty hard to beat. So you guys were pretty dialed in, and who killed their bull first?
My buddy Jimmy did. He killed. We found that bull opening morning, and I want to say by 2:00 that evening we had him down, and we ended up getting within probably about 10:00 in the morning. My dad and my wife sat back on the big eyes, kind of watching him, and it's thick cedars. It's not, run and gun and get on top of them real fast. So we did a lot of zigging and zagging, getting up there, trying to get the wind right, because that's what we found on these later hunts with a bow in your hand in these canyons where these bulls like to hang out. The wind is so hard to predict. It never does the right thing, so you're constantly moving different directions. And once we got around him and at his level, we had a couple other bulls to contend with, but we were trying to get in between them, hoping that if we did blow him out, he might not hear him. And we got in between them and slipped in. I want to say we came around the corner when he would stand up, we would move, but when he laid down, we sat down, and it worked to the point where when my dad told me he had stood up, we were 37 yards. I peeked around a tree. We were 37 yards, and my buddy got in front. We just played cat and mouse for about an hour, trying to keep the wind right and trying. At that point, you're so committed, you can't just back out. But we just kept on and waiting for a shooting lane, and eventually he got his head buried in a bush long enough that my buddy was able to slip around to 30 yards and put one good shot on him, and he fell over pretty much right there, and that was it for him. So it was good. It was an eye opener. We've been nervous in the country we were hunting, and how steep and how brushy and how thick it was, how difficult it might be. And once that happened, man, we were ready to do it again.
And when you say do it again, you meant on your hunt?
Yeah.
For your bull?
Yeah. So then we switched gears to mine, and I had a couple friends up there helping glass and looking around, and they were giving me a pretty hard time because we looked over probably 50 or 60 other bulls, and I was pretty picky. I wasn't to the point where I was going to ruin the hunt. I ended up grabbing my bow one day on a bull that we had seen in a really good spot with archery gear, and was getting ready to bail off the cliffs and head down after him. And I just had to tell myself, you had a goal. It's day 5, just hang in there a little bit longer, even though elk meat and a big set of antlers is nice. I really wanted that next notch up in bulls. I really wanted a 350 bull or better, unbroken, and we had seen enough bulls that it was just a matter of time. And a storm had rolled in and snowed, of course, the way my luck goes, and we lost one whole day. So in that thought, once it got real windy and the snow rolled in, you can only think of what the next day might be, because who knows what they do when it gets miserable, but my thought is they'll hunker down and wait it out, especially if it's just going to be a day-long storm. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they did. Because that next day, the bulls were on their feet early, and they fed probably till 10, 11 o'clock in the morning.
So in my mind, when it snows, one of the things about it is you can see them a lot better. It seems like those bulls really stick out when there's snow on the ground. Do you agree with that, or what do you think?
No, for sure. And I was excited because the snow we got was enough to cover the ground and turn everything white. But what was kind of interesting of this storm is it was real windy. So in one way we got the snow, in the white background, so everything should stick out, fairly well. And then on the other side, it was real windy, so not having to go out there and be miserable, we rolled the dice on the bulls. We're going to bed and stay down for most of the day. But the following day, it was supposed to come out and not be windy, and the sun was supposed to come out, and it all did. But it was perfect because those bulls were on their feet for a long time.
Did you find that right away they were a little slow to get up, but then once they got up, they kind of stayed up and fed? A lot of times it seems like when you get, a change in the weather, that first hour of light, they're pretty slow to get out of their beds. But then once they do, it seems like they really feed pretty hard.
Yeah, when we got out there, it was brutal cold, and you're glassing before the sun hits anything. And there was 2 bulls with the bull that I ended up shooting, and the one bull was up early, right away. My buddy glassed him up, and we could see the bull. And then the sun came up and hit him, and he stayed up for a while. But the bull I killed had some age to him for sure. He laid there until that sun hit that other bull, and the snow had almost melted enough off that there was big open patches of dirt. But he waited for that sun to get up, and once that sun was up, he went to town feeding, and and staying in the sun. He never ventured into the trees or anything like that. He stayed on that sun, on that south-facing slope for a long time.
Kevin, in the late season, what advice could you give to people looking for bulls as far as, is there a certain side of the slope that you typically find those bulls on, or certain type of vegetation or grade, type of steepness of terrain? Where do you typically look to find those big pockets of bulls?
You know what? I had a couple friends text me they weren't having any luck in asking me that question, and every time I get somewhere where I can glass, even if it's thick, brush or trees or whatever, we glass it all. All times of the day, all different kinds of weather. We glass it all. And this year on that late rifle hunt, the guys we were hunting with actually commented that they were surprised at how many bulls we had seen, midday in the sun. And you go to Unit 10 when it's 100 degrees out on an early archery hunt or early rifle hunt, and they're laying out in the middle of, antelope country baking in the sun. So on these later hunts, what's to say they're not going to be bedded in the open or bedded in the thick stuff. So I hate to limit it to, just, glass the south-facing slope or the shade slopes or, certain things, because you don't know where they're going to pop up or what time they're going to get up. That one bull we watched this year, there was 3 bulls, and in 3 days they hadn't moved 200 yards. And we watched them on sunny days, on a snowy day, and on a windy day. And they bedded in pretty much the exact same spot in the same pocket for 3 days. And every evening we'd leave them, they'd work their way down towards the bottom. So we were assuming they were watering down there. And then every day they came back up and they stayed on the exact same side. So, and in one spot you're looking at 20 bulls and they're all doing something different just about. So it's hard to knock it down to just one specific area.
I think that brings up a good point, and I want to reiterate that, when you're looking at those bulls, you're patterning those bulls and patterning where they're bedding, patterning where they're feeding, and, remembering what time they do what. And one thing I've found hunting those late bulls is when they get in a group of bulls, a bachelor group of bulls, it seems like they get very, very habitual. And I think the encouraging thing for people out there listening is, if you can put some homework in and find a group of bulls and watch them, and from what you're saying and from my experience is, once you find them and you have some, time to watch them, and if you can watch them multiple days, your chances of being able to get on those bulls and get them harvested goes way up because you've established a pattern.
Yes. And even as far as, I've heard some people talk about the types of vegetation that they'll swarm to, after the rut, and they're so drawn down and skinny and sore-footed and stuff. But this year, and it might sound a little stupid, but I saw for the first time that group of 3 bulls was consistently eating pine needles, and they were in a big group of oaks and all kinds of different kinds of brushes, and they were, nonstop eating pine needles off trees.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. So when you found your bull, the hunt was on, and did you know that he was going to be the biggest bull you've ever killed? Or did you not want to really think about it?
No, once he got up, my buddy glassed him up. He had his 13-year-old son with us, and he was just dying to see us stalk a bull because we've been looking at so many bulls. So when that bull got up, he got in a shady patch for a second, and I could see he had a big bottom end. I was concerned, short. He looked like he had short beams, at which on the one side he ended up, it was only 46. I could see the short beams and the fist, and then I was thinking he was broke on that one short third. I said, but once he hits the sun and we can actually see how heavy he is and how he looks, I said I'll make my mind up. And when he finally walked into the sun, he was walking downhill, it was a no-brainer. Just seeing the mass and how big his fronts were and his force and how much character we could see. He had a little split on the one side. I told my wife, I said, that's him. I no doubt about it. He'll be over 350. So then from there we watched him for a while, just kind of watching. They were in some real thick stuff, some really thick brush and some open patches, and had beef cows above them and a couple whitetail bucks. So it wasn't like I could just storm in there and get right on top of them. So we sat there for a while and watched him, and they never did bed. And I didn't assume they were going to bed early. I was pretty confident they'd stay on their feet. So we were sitting probably 2 miles away, mile and a half away. Me and my wife made it around and started the hike in, and literally once we got to a point where we were probably 300 yards from him, he bed down in some manzanita and some oak brush, but just far enough inside the manzanita. I had big clearings that I could get up to the other side. He did have that other bull with him, plus the beef cows and the whitetail that we had to be aware of. So we got up there. My dad stayed back with my buddy and his son and kept him in the glass. And this time we ended up, with the wind, we ended up having to go all the way to the top above him. And he was on a steep, bluffy ridge. Once we got above, and got to, I want to say, about 150 yards. He was still bedded. The little bull had got up and started feeding. And then once he got up, I was trying to get close, because when you look at a bull and then you move a mile to get on him, everything changes. It might look wide open, but what a lot of people will get messed up on, if you don't have a spotter and you're able to realize it, but once you move around the terrain, the toe, everything looks completely different. It's so easy to lose stuff once you leave wherever you're glassing from. Well, when we got over there and that bull stood on his feet, that was my opportunity to try and get, not necessarily as close, because I was playing it real safe, because I didn't want to get too close with the way the winds were. But we got to a point where we could see that bull, and my father on the radio was thinking we were 100 yards, and we were 200 yards. Once I could see that little bull, but once I got a fix on him, I told my wife, I said, we just need to start working our way down this stuff real slow. We took our boots off even, and which made it fun in the wet dirt and the cactus, but we pulled
Brittany's toes had to freeze off.
Yeah, but once we got to a point where we could see that bull, you forget about everything. It was cool, because we were able to. The bull he was with was a nice bull. He was broke real bad, but once you get to a point where you can see these things under 150 yards, to us it's just something else. So it was easy to forget about everything and just really, really concentrate, and it was awesome. We got down there and got to 75 yards away from that small bull, and we still hadn't seen the big bull actually. And the little bull walked back and kind of surprised us, because we were thinking he was, playing the wind not perfect in my face. You're playing, the different angles, and it was actually blowing kind of towards them, but we had enough angle. Enough of an angle between them that it was kind of going off their left side. And when he turned around and went back, it helped us. And then we found that big bull. Anyways, we ended up having to sit there for probably 30 minutes, and everything's just coming to, at some point this is going to end in either them running off or me getting a shot. So I'm trying to find a shooting lane and where we're going to, position ourselves, because he was bedded. Well, once that little bull come over towards him and laid down, he got up and fed right where he was. And when I saw him going on the same path, I had called my dad and asked him, I said, are there any shooting lanes or anything he's headed towards that you can see where I'm at? And it's, to him, all his reply was the whole hillside looks open to you. So it was really difficult the way the land laid to get that help. So we just hunkered down right there, and he stepped out at 60 yards, but he was covered in oak brush, and sat there waiting. And she got some film. We actually got both of these hunts on film, but she didn't get the kill shot because I had to take a step. But he got in that oak brush and took a couple steps around, and I ended up ranging him at 70 yards. And before the hunt, my father had asked me, what's your yardage and what are you going to feel comfortable out to? And 65 rolled off my tongue real fast. And I said, but if I have to, I feel confident to 70. And I ranged that bull. He was 68, and I'm shooting one of those CBE sights. I dialed it to 70, and with the broadheads I'm shooting and all the practice I did, I didn't hesitate. I pulled it back and put one perfect right behind the shoulder through both lungs, and he went about 30 yards and laid down, and that was it.
Good for you. That's awesome. A couple questions. One would be more of a observation, and you mentioned that you thought that the bull was, your dad thought it was 100, and you said it was more like 200. One thing I might point out there is and you can weigh in on this, it's very important if you're going to hunt with a radio to be able to communicate with whoever is on the other end to say, okay, I am 106 yards from that bull. How far does it look to you? Or if he said, a lot of times you can ask, how far am I from the bull? Because it seems like I always want to know how far away I am from whatever it is I'm stalking. And if he says 100 and it looks 50 to you, or he says 100 and it looks 200, you can then say on the radio, I know it looks 100, but it's really 200. I just ranged it. And I think in trying to be efficient, if you and the spotter are exactly on the same page in a gauge of distance, that can really help you out.
Yes, and every chance, me and my dad have gotten a way where we talk to each other and work with the radios, and every chance we get, and specifically on my bull, when I got to a point those beef cows were still there, I called them and I said, hey, how far does it look like I am from that, that black cow? And he said, and I would range him, and every chance I would get to but you got to make sure you can't just say to this tree, or it's got to be something that for sure he's looking at. And we would sit there and talk, and I told him, no, actually it's 150 or whatever it was. But that's really critical, because there's times where that Unit 10 hunt where we were driving in to get to a spot, and my dad called me and thought we were right on top of some elk, and the way the lay of the land was and how it looked, we were a mile away from them, but it looked like we were driving right on top of them. So it's real critical, I think, to get on the same page for whoever you're having spot for you, and just go through those scenarios when you can, especially if you're stalking something, because when it comes down to the bull stands up, how far away, and it's not anywhere close, it could make or break you.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people out there that don't like to use radios, and that's fine, and there's some people that do like to use radios. I think that the thing to remember for people out there listening is, if you are going to use radios, that still doesn't mean it's going to be easy. What it means is you need to perfect your communication. Just because you're using radios does not mean you can just saunter up to a bull elk with a bow and shoot them. So when you're communicating with whoever it is, I like the person that is communicating to be very specific, and they say, the bull is to your right, facing downhill to your left. He's 75 yards. He's walking in your direction. And try and be as specific as you can, as to what the bull is doing or the buck or what have you. And when the person is listening with their earpiece and they know that the communicator is saying, okay, the bull is to Kevin's right, he's facing you, Kevin, and he's walking in your direction and he's 60 yards, then Kevin knows that he may just stand still, or he may know that there's a tree in front of him. If he clears 3 more yards, that bull's going to walk right out in front of him. So I think constant communication and clear communication is huge when trying to be efficient stalking in, especially when you're using radios.
Yeah, because we're using them, and it opens up. We're able to hunt some country. You could still get it done, but we're trying to get the odds on our favor because we're hunting big, thick country. And anytime if the animal beds, he'll call me and tell me. And then we know we're on the same page. If anything changes, he'll call and tell me. But if I'm walking along, I love all the information. If I could, I'd have someone just sit there talking constantly, let me know what he's doing. But anytime I click the radio, I don't even have to say anything. A couple times, he'll just say, yeah, he's still bedded, head is facing south, or what have you. Just all the info it all helps. And it's like you said, it doesn't guarantee it, but at the same time, if you were to make a bad shot or something like that, it's a world of difference having someone in an elevated position that's able to tell you where he's going, because there's certain scenarios and there's certain areas where, a blood trail ain't going to cut it, or it might not even happen. And
I think another point, Kevin, is, okay, there's people that are against radios, and that's fine. And I get emails every time when I talk about radios, and that's fine. I appreciate the emails. Send them to jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. But I think it's important to note, too, that we're out there to kill. We're out there to enjoy ourselves, but we're out there to put meat on the table. And in my mind, if something like that can make you more efficient, and someone can say, you hit the bull, I've got the bull, sit where you're at, the bull's coming at you, the bull's going away from you, and you can gain more information, you can make a more effective kill, I'm all for it. Now, if, you're hunting a record book animals and you don't want to have communication because you want to enter them in the books, that's a whole nother thing. But hunting with a radio and having constant communication can be extremely effective if done properly. It can also backfire if you don't have proper communication and have someone that's really being descriptive on the other line or on the other side. But I get in this argument with people a lot about radios or not radios, and I always look at them and I say, are we out there to kill? Are we out there to be efficient? Are we out there to kill them as fast as we can and make as ethical a shot as we can? And in my book, the answer is yes. And if that's so, if using a radio helps in all of that, I don't understand why people have a problem with that. Now, if they have a problem with the radio altogether, that's fine. Don't do it. That's perfectly fine. And I think if you're going to enter animals in Boone and Crockett or Pope and Young and they don't allow radios, then don't use radios. But, for late elk hunts like the one you have where, the likelihood of, shooting, 500-inch bulls and, 300-inch bucks and just craziness, why not use a radio and be efficient? It's an extremely fun way to hunt. You get to, people helping you can be listening on the radio and be a part of the hunt. I just think it's we're out there to have fun, and we're out there to efficiently kill these animals. And I'm a proponent of radios. Darn, I use radios a lot. I think it's great for safety, but it's an efficient way to kill animals, and that's what we're there to do. Or else if you're not, go back to carving your own bows and your own arrows and bending your own bows and, shooting at them at 15 yards. And that's fine, too. We're all hunters. We should all support each other. But I kind of get tired of the anti-radio banter that I hear. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yes, because, here we are on a late archery hunt, and we shoot 2 bulls. It's all fun and dandy, and we use radios, and then we switch gears a week later to the late rifle hunt, same unit, same same exact setup, and two bulls never even get a shot off with a rifle under 500 yards. And, it doesn't make it super easy. And, with the radios just open up the world to everything, because here we are with a rifle in our hands and we can't even get a shot off. So but one of the bulls we did end up getting, it almost made or break us, because the guy had shot the bull in a bad spot and the bull wasn't bleeding and time's running out. It's getting dark, and the bull ended up making a real sharp left-hand turn and bedded down. And the guy that was spotting for me called me and walked me into a position where the sun, where we were headed, we were going to have the sun in our eyes. He walked me to a spot where we wouldn't have sun, and we were able to harvest that bull before it got dark. If it would have got dark, who knows that bull's going to end up. And then trying to find him where there's beef cows and other bulls, and he's not bleeding in oak brush and manzanita, you're going to be spinning in circles or looking for birds, and you're going to lose that meat.
For sure. Well, buddy, that's an awesome bull. If people want to see it, they can go on Instagram, Kipper, Kipper 2012. Got a great Instagram page, and I believe it's just Kevin Passmore on Facebook, correct?
Yes.
Kevin Passmore on Facebook, and it's always great having you on the show. What did that bull end up scoring?
He ended up going, I want to say 358 and some change.
Yeah, it's an awesome, heavy-looking, just great fronts on that bull. And you've stacked them up pretty good on those late archery elk hunts.
So far, 3 for 3. My first one, I was, just learning the hunt and learning what I could do. And then these last two, I started getting a little more picky. I mean, once it comes down to the wire, I want to shoot and fill the freezer. But it's they're an awesome hunt. I know they're getting more popular, and some big bulls are getting killed, but they're a fun hunt. If a guy doesn't want to wait 15, 20 years, or after he draws that tag and he wants to go one more time, they're a pretty easy hunt to get drawed for, and just got to do some homework.
Absolutely. Well, buddy, thanks for being on, and thanks for sharing your time with us. And one thing I always admire about you and your wife is you get the little ones, the little tykes, little babies out there in the field with you, and you guys are bringing those kids up right, and I want to commend you on that. And it's always great having you on the podcast, and I wish you the best of success. Do you have any hunts coming up around the corner here?
I got a couple friends with some late whitetail tags, and my wife's itching to get out with her bow when archery deer starts. And then we got pig tags, of course, and then I drew a turkey tag up here around town that we've had with our kids. So we're looking forward to that, taking them up there and getting a chance to show them the turkeys and hear them gobble and whatnot.
Awesome. Yeah, I always look forward to your turkey videos and such. So, well, you guys, if I don't hear from you, have a very Merry Christmas, and thanks for being on, and I look forward to having you on again, okay?
All right. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Take care.
You too.
Guys, GoHunt.com Insider is the title sponsor of this podcast. Get everything you need in one spot. Join Insider today. Find and plan your hunts more effectively than ever. Complete state coverage. See detailed information for every unit, every species, every hunt. Interactive maps. Quickly find hunts that meet your exact search criteria and explore them easily. Strategy articles. Learn new things and find hidden opportunities with exclusive articles. Species breakdowns. Top trophy units are hiding in plain sight. Find them with our statistics and historical data. Another great thing about GoHunt.com Insider is they have monthly giveaways that are worth $100,000 plus a year. Each month you will automatically be entered to win gear, tags, and hunts. That is if you're an Insider member. Past prizes include a $22,000 Doll sheep hunt, 3 Red Rock Precision rifles with a $21,000 value, 5 Zeiss Conquest HD binoculars with a $7,500 value. Not to mention, this past July they gave away 4 hunts, an antelope hunt, 2 elk hunts, and a mule deer hunt. Join Insider today and get a $50 KUIU gift card. All you have to do is go to gohunt.com/insider, click on the blue Join Now button, use the promo code JScott at checkout, and gohunt.com will send you a $50 KUIU gift card. I want to thank gohunt.com Insider for being the title sponsor of this podcast.